Vanakkam and welcome to Tamil Suvai Nergale. RJ Sudha here, founder and anchor of Tamil Suvai Radio. Today marks not just April Fool's Day, but it's also Ramadan, the beginning of Ramadan for our Muslim listeners. And we are right in the middle of Lent that's being observed by our Christian listeners. For many listeners, for many Hindus, the regional New Year celebrations like the Tamil New Year, the Yugadi, the Gudi Padwa are also upcoming in April. In fact, somebody just reminded me that Yugadi and Gudi Padwa falls right tomorrow. What is common amongst all these is food. While our Islam listeners adhere to strict fasting throughout the day, and they break their fast after sunset, our Christian listeners, they observe prayer, fasting, and almsgiving throughout this Lent period. As far as our Hindu listeners are concerned, many of our Hindu listeners who are religious, they observe Ekadashi twice a month. They kind of adhere to fruit diet during these Ekadashi periods. As you can see, some kind of religion-based cleansing that's based on food that goes into the system. But what if this cleansing is actually cleansing or fasting is actually forced upon you? Let's say our Indian culture, however, what if it is forced upon you? What happens to school-going children who are deprived of some basic nutrients? Do you think they can make an impact on grades, or do you think their future of the country? No, really, right? What if we said, although we say that, we say that breakfast, eat like a king for breakfast and eat like a queen for lunch and just go easy on dinner. But what if you're not served a good breakfast at home, because the parents can't afford it, or there is not sufficient resources? That's why we have organizations like Akshaya Patra that help school-going children, nourish them so that they can move on with their school lives and be impactful citizens and maybe even make good leaders for the country, for India, definitely. Ever since times of former Chief Minister Kamarajar, Tamil Nadu has been a state that provided midday food schemes for school-going children. MGR, nobody can even doubt what MG Ramachandran has done for midday meal schemes, and J. Jayalalitha has done wonderful things, and of course MK Stalin has carried on this reign, and he has continued this midday meal scheme for government school going children wonderfully well, very well executed also. But breakfast has always been a gap, and it continues to be a gap. As they say, eat like a king during breakfast, and this gap is being filled up by Akshaya Patra. This is the gap that is being filled today in Tamil Nadu. Akshaya Patra has been making a huge impact all across India, and now they are making an impact, and they're trying to make an entry into Tamil Nadu, starting with Chennai, especially the breakfast zone. We have with us today Sri Rajan, Vice Chairman of Akshaya Patra Foundation, USA. And we also have Navin Goel, CEO of Akshaya Patra Foundation. Who better can explain to us what is the goal, what is the vision, what is the mission, and what they have in mind for Tamil Nadu, especially in Chennai, as far as the breakfast project goes. With that, I'd like to welcome Sri Rajan and Navin Goel to Tamil Suvai Radio. Welcome aboard, both of you. How are you doing?
Vanakkam, Sudha. Thank you very much. Thank you for having us on this show.
Sure. Navinji, welcome.
Vanakkam, that's the only Tamilian word I know, so I'm going to use it. Thank you for inviting us. And we are really, really excited to talk about Akshaya Patra with you all.
Sure. Yeah, tell us about your association with Akshaya Patra, if I may ask you, Navinji.
I've been fortunate to get the opportunity to work with Akshaya Patra for over the last 6 months, and it's been my pleasure to meet lots of amazing people. And the person who really started me all is Sri right here, who's next to us on the call itself. And so Sri, I think I'll leave the gory details to you, but from my side, my association has been that we've been working in the United States and Canada today to see, support, and expand the outreach for the Indian diaspora to support the causes of Akshaya Patra back home in India. So we basically run the fundraising, the outreach, making people proud and aware of themselves and what they can do with the $20 donation that they make to us, which takes care of a child's education back home, because without food, there is no education.
Absolutely. Yeah, wonderful. Akshaya means food, right? Very nice. Very beautifully said.
And the Patra means limitless in our case. literally, because that's what the need in India is all about.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Either one of you, I can throw out this question. How much of an impact in terms of statistics that Akshaya Patra has had in India? If you can tell me that, it'll be nice.
I'm happy to take a shot at this, Naveen, and then you can jump in. So, we pre-pandemic, we were feeding about 1.8 million children
Oh,
every day.
wow. Okay.
Every
Every
day, every
day.
day, every day across the country. We have 60 kitchens across the country, and many of them are pretty large in size. They can go up to serving or making 250,000 meals at a time, the largest one that we have. And these are what we call industrial size kitchens, meaning our industrial
Oh,
kitchens,
man.
which are really factories. You'll go in there, you'll see these rice making machines, sambar making machines, you'll see roti making machines if you go to the
My
north.
goodness.
So one of the things about Akshaya Patra, and this is true for all the listeners, obviously, who are familiar with India, taste change and palates change from region to region, not
Oh,
even
yes.
region to region,
Within the state too. Yeah.
within the state as well, right? Every 100 kilometers you go, the taste changes. And so we want to make sure that children actually both eat and enjoy the food.
Yes.
Because one of the things that we believe in strongly is that food is a mechanism for delivery of nutrition.
Yeah,
it's not just to satiate hunger, which is in many instances, the reason why children have the food, but it's also for nutrition delivery. And so if children enjoy the food and have more of it, the more nutrition that goes into them.
Absolutely.
We have the ability to do this, across the country. But obviously, during the pandemic in India, most schools, in fact, all schools were shut for a while. Akshaya Patra then changed its model to serve people who were impacted by the pandemic.
Okay.
And over the course of the last 2 years, literally, from March to March of 2020 to now, Akshaya Patra has distributed about 225 million meals.
Oh my goodness, okay.
To people who have been impacted by COVID.
Wow.
And it's only now that schools are starting to reopen in India and that we are reopening our kitchens. In fact, a lot of states have reopened schools.
Okay.
And the midday meal program is getting back on track. And so we're going to go back again. I think right now we are serving about half the number, so about 900,000 meals per day is where we are up to right now. And hopefully very quickly we'll go back to the 1.8 million per day. And the intent is to get this up to 2.5 million meals per day over the next.
That's a lot of statistics. I mean, that's a lot of mouths to feed.
It's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, yeah.
And the last thing I'll leave with you, Sudha, is that over the course of 20 years, we have served over 3 billion meals, to people.
I mean, God bless you. God bless Akshaya Patra. I mean, and the members, the office bearers, the cooks, the housekeeping folks. I can't tell you. I can't tell you how much you have been. They say Annadhana in India is the best dhana. You may give clothes, you may give education, you may give, like they say, Lord Karna gave away everything he could give. But there's one thing, he suffered till the end because he did not do Annadhana. So if you've not done Annadhana, you can as well not count your blessing, count you as somebody who has given any dhana. So what Akshaya Patra is doing is provide Annadhana to everybody, irrespective of the caste, creed, or whatever. In terms of whenever, especially when there was COVID, you just donated food. That is what speaks volumes. Amazing. Thank you for that.
If I may, just as Sri said, this program of ours, has two pieces to it. That we have to, ensure that the schools want us to take on the leadership for the program of the midday meal. Because these are government programs, as you rightly said earlier, Sudha, it has a long history, for instance, in Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
And the second thing is we have to put in a lot of capital outlay, as you heard from Sri, that these kitchens are absolutely industrial quality, and we have to optimize them, engineer them, and build them for not just their nutritious value, the preparation style, the recipes that we cook, but also that they are done in a manner that is absolutely hygienic, pure, and pristine.
Yes.
So to ensure all of that stuff, we need a lot of capital. And we are pleased to say that today we have the capital put in to serve 2.5 million meals.
Very good. Very nice.
And we are only doing 900, as you heard from Sri. And so we are in the process of ramping up as these schools open back to 1.8 and then take it beyond to 2.5.
Excellent.
And this is the story of Akshaya Patra, that we never stop, even during COVID. While we were taking care of the distraught because of COVID, we kept the movement towards preparing ourselves to get to the 2.5 million.
Yeah, all right. Wonderful, wonderful. Very touched by your movement. Let's speak on the Tamil Nadu project right now, which has been, considering that your midday meal scheme has been a huge success throughout India, and you have fed so many schools, and even during the pandemic you have continued to serve, and now that the children are back to school, you are revamping the situation. Let's talk about what your plans are for Tamil Nadu. Now that, and as you all know, as we know, that Tamil Nadu has already has a midday meal scheme provided by the government. And I was told that Akshaya Patra is trying to supplement that with a morning breakfast program. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. Happy to do that. So we have just started the program in Tamil Nadu a couple of years ago. And as you said, the government already has a midday meal program for government schools over there. So we started in Thiruvanmayur in Chennai. We started a kitchen with a capacity of about 5,000 meals, but for breakfast.
Very nice.
And so what you will see over there, if you go to Thiruvanmayur, and by the way, I would invite all the listeners who are interested to please stop by. It's a smaller kitchen compared to the much larger ones we have around India.
You have to start small somewhere.
You have to start small, but you will see, for example, there's an idli making machine.
Okay.
There is a pongal making machine. And so just to the point around, catering to local tastes, we wanted to make sure that we made food in Thiruvanmayur that catered to the local tastes of school children in Chennai.
Sure.
We have just opened up, or in the process of opening up, another kitchen in Chennai with a capacity of 12,000. This is on Greaves Road, near Apollo Hospital, just off Mount Road, in fact.
Oh, yeah.
And you will see that it's got a capacity. It's a brand new kitchen. It was a piece of land, by the way. People ask, how did you get this? And right in the middle of
Chennai. Heart of the city, right?
Yeah. In the heart of the city, yeah.
Yeah.
This was a piece of land that was actually a dump yard. Nobody wanted this piece of land. Okay. And so the corporation gave it to Akshaya Patra. And as you can imagine, Akshaya Patra completely cleaned up the place, completely.
Nice.
And, constructed a brand new kitchen over there. And again, the capacity is for 12,000 breakfasts. We are in the process, we are in the process of raising capital for a third kitchen in Chennai, in Perambur. And that is going to be that's in early stages. We are still in the planning stage. We are still raising, like I said, capital for the construction and so on. And that will have a capacity of 15,000 meals.
Okay.
So that's really the start of our program in Chennai. So far, the reaction has been very good, just even with the Thiruvanmayur kitchen. And the last thing I was mentioning, Sudha, is that we have a kitchen in Puducherry. I know it's technically not of Tamil Nadu, but they might be listeners who from that part of the world who might be listening in. But we have a capacity of 50,000 meals, and that's for midday meals. Okay. And that's a very successful program.
Very nice.
We're running in Puducherry. So I just wanted to mention that.
Sure, very nice. I have a logistics question. So you do have a kitchen in Thiruvanmayur, you have one in Greaves Road, you have one in Perambur, but the schools may not be there. Obviously, there is school there. I know there is a government school in Thiruvanmayur, but I don't think Greaves Road is more of a corporate area. There are no specific public schools or government schools there. How do you transport the food there, and how early does the food arrive, and what schools is it targeted for?
Yeah, so our program is anywhere in India is targeted at government schools. That's all we work with. We don't work with private schools.
Absolutely.
Our intent is to help children
So the kitchen starts off very early, like 6 a.m. or something like that, or 5
Oh, much earlier than that. So I'll tell you, just to tell you, for example, for lunches, for the midday meals around the country, the kitchen starts at 3 in the morning. That's for the lunches.
Okay.
And the meals start rolling out at 7:30 in the morning, because the small vans that transport the food, and these are in insulated containers, Sudha. And, we want to make sure that when the lunch is served, it is served hot. So we actually measure the temperature. It's got to be 65 degrees centigrade when the food is served. So the food has to be prepared and carried and transported in insulated containers so that it gets to the child by around 11:30, 12:30. And then there is the reverse, you carry all the utensils back to the kitchen in the afternoon for the cleaning and all of that, right? For the breakfast right now in Tirvanmayur, we want to make sure that the food arrives around between 8 and 9 in the morning to the schools. And there are enough schools, by the way. You'll be surprised that even though Queens Road is in the middle of the city, there are enough schools, government schools around that we can serve through this breakfast program.
Okay.
And the kitchen starts, I would say it's around the same time, between 3 and 4 in the morning. They have to prepare the vegetables, right? Because any meal that we have, we want to make sure the vegetables. So they prepare the vegetables, clean it, prepare it, cook it, get it ready, make the food, whether it's a pongal or an idli and the sambar or whatever it is.
Oh, that makes me hungry. Yeah.
They put it in the containers and then it goes out for serving.
Okay. So many works, a lot of resources needed, a lot of infrastructure work, as you said, truck drivers to cooks and vegetable cutters to, a lot of things. How are you getting your funding? And how can, let's say corporates are also involved, I can tell, because no small individuals, let's say even if I contribute $20, that's going to still help, but you need bigger funds, okay? Let's say as individuals, let my listeners are listening, individuals can pay $20, $30, $100. How do you want to send the message? What kind of message do you want to send to them?
Yeah, I'll answer the first part, one part, and then I'll hand it over to Navin. You talked about the number of people who are involved, right? So everyone makes a contribution. It's like you said, the people who prepare the food, the people who transport the food, the people who serve the food, all of that.
Yes.
A lot of people, who are involved.
Buying the groceries, because I know the pain of preparing the food just for a family of 4.
Yeah, and I want to make a couple of points there, Sudha. Akshaya Patra is a professionally run organization.
I can tell.
So the set of people that we have, for example, the head of what we call supply chain, the structure is very much like a corporate structure. So we have people whose full-time job is procurement of, staples like rice and wheat and vegetables and so on, and other vegetables and so on. And so we have like people thinking very deeply about logistics, about supply chain, about costs. We have like solar power in each of our kitchens to make sure that, we are green. We have water conservation, in each of the kitchens, because the kitchen uses a lot of water. We recycle the water. So there's a lot of technology that goes into it, including, by the way, in the preparation of the food itself. So if you go to any of our kitchens, you will see these machines that actually cut the vegetables. You will see machines that clean the rice. So we have these big hoppers that transport the rice from the roof of a building into like these big rice making vats. And it's, to the point that Navin made earlier, we want to make sure it's clean and hygienic.
Absolutely.
There is very little contact with hand. And so the moment the food is prepared, it goes automatically into a container and the container gets shipped into the van and so on. So there's a lot of technology that's been applied to any of this. And it really feels like a factory. My favorite story, Sudha, is that, if you go to a kitchen in the north, you go to any of the North Indian kitchens, whether it's Jaipur or Vrindavan or any of these places, because people eat rotis over there rather than rice. There are these massive roti making machines.
Yeah, I've seen.
You've seen those and they come out. The best part of, that is that at the very end of the line, when the rotis are made, there is a tap that drops some ghee onto each of the rotis.
Yeah.
So when the roti comes out, it's got ghee on top of it. And then that's packed and sent to the school.
Okay.
And so even those small touches, like, it's not just food. We also like to give sweets to the children because, that gives them an incentive to come and have the meal. So things like that. So I want to make sure that your listeners understand that we apply a lot of
Got that
thinking.
homely touch, right? Looks like.
Yeah, a lot of thinking that we apply to what we do, how we do it. And we're very careful, things like water recycling. We want to make sure that we're good for the environment. Solar, because we want to conserve costs. We just don't want to spend the money. But I'll turn it over to Navin for him to talk about the fundraising and the sources and what happens over there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sri. And Sudha, if you've not yet become a big fan of our kitchen, I think you can outsource your home food from our kitchen. We would be happy to
I'm so tempted to do that now. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Now, to your question, to all your listeners, I would say the following. Of course, $20 symbolically for 1 year for one child is what we always talk about. And so every person, from whatever means they may be, can clearly help contribute and take care of a child for a year. And the sources of our funding, to that question, of course, we try to reach out to the individuals, we reach out to the corporates, we reach out to the foundations, and we have to work it every way, because clearly, though the impact is obvious, the cause is something that everybody's heart moves on, it still takes a lot to make this a reality. Just to give you a little bit on the numbers as well, typically for a year, with the government program of the midday meal and our added contribution to it, it typically takes about $38 for a year to prepare the meal for a child for a year. And so the contribution of $38 is how we make this thing happen. And the way people can help us, if I may share that on your call, is, of course, you can write a check. Of course, you can help us outreach, because our message is still at its very infant stage. Despite the program being there in the Indian schools, lots of people assume that there is no hunger in India, that the midday meal program of the government, of course, takes care of everything, but that's not at all true. It takes a lot more of personalized attention and care to make these programs successful. And that's where Akshaya Patra comes in. So please help us get our word across. And last but not the least, this is just one meal a day, 6 days a week. It doesn't even cover the Sunday that the schools are typically closed. So we need all the help we can to get our breakfast program, which is the second meal of the day that we are trying to bring out. And as Sudhaji, you said, that's the king size meal. The queen was the midday meal program. So we clearly want to focus on that. So we will need, more support from the people. And last but not the least, in the US, the Indian diaspora that's living in the US clearly needs to remain connected to India. And that's where Akshaya Patra comes in. And so a lot of our programs and a lot of our channel is directed towards the young professionals and the very young children at school. And we have stories of how our chapters in various communities, we have 40 of those, connect back to these schools, 19,000 of them which we serve, by doing small, cute projects, from planting a sapling to painting, vases and selling them on the streets. So you can participate in every way you can and raise funds.
All right. Sounds very good. Yeah. I mean, it'd be very gratifying, to say the least. Very good. Very nice. Are there anything else that either of you would like to say about as far as closing comments are concerned?
No, Sudha. So I would say that, we welcome any and all support. We have a vast group of people who, have been supporting us over the years, over here, around the world, and in India. And I think to amplify, one of Navin's points, that if any of your listeners go to India, there's a very good chance that there's an Akshaya Patra kitchen that's not far from wherever they're going, whichever part of the country they go to. And I would strongly encourage them to, schedule a visit and to go see, what the kitchen is about, go see the impact it has on the lives of children.
And be ready to have goosebumps.
Be ready to have goosebumps.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that, we talk about this, but at the end of the day, if a child is hungry, their ability to absorb, anything that's taught in the school is very limited. And so nutrition and food is very, very important for the overall physical and cognitive development of the child. And we are starting at that base. There are lots of other things that are also important, and don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But just this is the foundational element of what it takes for the development of a child.
Very true. Very, very true. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Yeah.
Thank you, Sri. And Sudhaji, I don't know whether we ran out of our time, but just one sentence. For all those whose hearts are moved by Akshaya Patra and the children in India, I strongly implore you, go to your corporation if you're working for some company and get us on the list for charitable donations. If you yourself can make contributions, we would appreciate it. And think long term. All it takes is a little school and boom, you have the best leaders for India and abroad, all over the world, coming out of them as upright citizens. That's the impact of Akshaya Patra.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And may Akshaya Patra grow. May the children of India grow. And this is something that is wonderful work that Akshaya Patra is doing. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.